I'm so curious how you think about the sort of the value proposition to your students or your
Mhm.
prospective students
Mhm.
in these communities, because part of the reason that students want to leave and go to college in
Mhm.
a big city
Mhm.
is because of the opportunity that they're exposed to,
Yep.
um, both in terms of the types of connections that they can make, which
Mhm.
the internet does change.
Mhm.
You don't have to go to the city to
Yep.
meet people who share similar interests to you the way you did in like the 1980s. You can meet them digitally now, but I'm very curious because so many people leave their small towns, not just because they feel like there isn't opportunity there, but also because they just want to sort of experience a vastness of opportunity at the university level, maybe before they come back. I'm
Mhm.
really curious, like, how you kind of would describe your
Mhm.
average student,
Mhm.
and also like what the biggest things are besides just career training
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
you're offering them that makes it compelling for them to stay. Because I
Yep.
think a lot of young people, like, the small town life experience is better than the city life
Mhm.
experience in so many ways.
They'll eventually figure that out,
They'll
which is
yeah,
why
it takes
eventually they're trying
sometimes
to
it
move
takes a
back.
while,
That's right.
but there's also, like, you're young and you're
Mhm.
unmarried and you wanna find your future spouse, and maybe there just, like, aren't a lot of people in your
Mhm.
town, and you feel like the odds are better if you go to a bigger college, or you wanna meet people who love theater like you
Mhm.
do and have a bigger
Mhm.
theater experience, or, there's so many different reasons.
Yep.
How how do you create these environments in these smaller communities
Mhm.
that serve those types of
Yep,
needs?
it's good. So let me divide the question between the small town and just the question of community in general, because like we have some sites in Arlington, Texas, right? 600,000 person suburb of a 7 million person, megapolis, which can be even more isolating than a small town.
How so?
Where are your relationships? Where are your networks? You can very much disappear into the suburban, blase of like, I don't have uh, a town square. I don't have a community. This is just a sleeper community, and everybody shuts their garage doors, and maybe I have some people at church, but community relationships and deep networks is not just isolated to, well, I can't find that in a small town. It can also be very much in the suburban and urban environments. And so I would say that you should think about what we're doing as community and place based. Many of those are identified as small towns, but increasingly we're starting to move into these urban environments where they're saying, we want the benefit. And this comes to the answer to your question. We want the benefit of multi-generationalism. We want our uncles and our aunts and our parents and our grandparents. And when I leave, I'm stepping away from an entire ecosystem of support, as well as things like now I can't, you know, build a house on my parents' property, or I can't, now I have to go into debt, not just for the student loan side, but for the housing side. And so there's all of these things that happen in the modern American life when you isolate and atomize yourself away from your foundations. And the problem is we've forgotten how to do this. Like doesn't naturally happen in small towns because small towns have forgotten how to do this. Like the little town where I was born in, southeast Nebraska, there's meth and there's not a whole lot else, you know. So it does create this vicious cycle of, well, there's nothing here. We've forgotten how to do multi-generationalism. We've sold the farms. It's all corporate owned anyways. And so I guess I have to leave, So we are fighting a whole cycle. But if I were to say that kind of the ideal vision that we're trying to build towards, it's that when there is a student who is looking at, graduating from high school, and let's say that they know they want to go into public administration or politics. Currently, the choice is I can send them to Stanford or wherever, A&M, here we are in Texas. They can leave, they can go build their own network. And where do they end up working? Well, they don't have a deep, rich, trusted relationship with the local mayor and city council and those kind of things. They have to kind of work their way through kind of a state network system. And eventually maybe they end up working in middle management for the state of Texas, or maybe they end up working for a campaign somewhere here in Austin. But they've never been given the opportunity of actually building like deep, rich, trusted relationships with the mayor and city council and the sheriff's office and those kind of things. That option isn't even on the table for most of these kids. So if I can come in with a criminal justice program or a public administration or a campaign management program kind of in that civic space, partner with the university for accreditation, but then apprentice them into city hall, sheriff's office, those kind of things, now I can actually build civic structures that have long-term impact. And if you want to talk about things like criminal justice reform, well, people complain about the tension between police and local communities. But when we import all of our rural cops from Dallas, Fort Worth, and they don't know any of the people, that haven't grown up with any of the people, and now it's just enmity between this imported lawman and these town people that are kind of my enemy, and I think they're going to try to kill me because I don't know them. Well, what if we start at the root of let's build civic leaders that love their place and love their people? And so there's a rippling effect that if you can take the education back to the community, whether it's small town or it's South Dallas, Deep Ellum, I don't really care, that you build relationships and formation and flourishing around multi-generational care. And unfortunately, our universities are really good at destroying those core ties that bind. Like they are specifically designed to break those and to extract the people. And I'm all about education, but I'm not all about destroying the kind of rooted connectivity of what does a flourishing society need. So I'm trying to re-engineer the education piece, and people think I'm in education, but I'm really in community design. Like, how do you build flourishing places using the human capital that God's placed in those communities? So I think that if you see that as like the foundational question around how do you build a flourishing community, then you can start to build experiences and programs and products to deal with what you're talking about, which is student experience, the whole college experience, opportunities. So we have a phenomenal study abroad program where, in classics and humanities and whatever, you can go to a incredible little monastery in Greece that we partner with right off the Corinthian Bay that's 12 miles down from Delphi. And you can do all of your classics and all of your greats, in that place. So we're not trying to build like this weird, like the village, like you can never leave. What we're trying to do is to say, how do we create a governance structure that the people that are helping these students make life choices in education have access to the world, local, state, national, and global opportunities, but the people that are helping them make that decision are not the admissions officer holding the promissory note for a lifetime of debt. It's a governance question. Who should be helping guide and determine these decisions? And man, if there is a really super talented young lawyer that has been trained locally and is excelling, and maybe they should be state attorney general. Maybe we should elevate them to that level. We're not trying to say that there's no opportunities out of your town. We're trying to say is, where does that human formational space, where do we center that? And we've come to the point where we no longer trust our universities for that human formational governance.